Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game from the Riga FIDE Grand Prix 2019. It's Jan-Krzysztof Duda versus Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. Now we already said that we are going to show another game and then gonna check out the standings, and to get all the way to the quarterfinals, Jan-Krzysztof Duda eliminated Peter Svidler in the round prior to this one, and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov eliminated Danil Dubov. So both of them had pretty tough opponents, but it's still pretty much only the beginning. We still have the semifinals and the finals. So it's really an interesting game. I will show this photo, so let's just enjoy that for a second. There you have it. It's not from this game, as Mamedyarov has the white pieces here. Two of the classical games have been drawn, and this is a game from the Rapids, but I do not have a photo of the game that we are going to show. This photo and also the photos of the profile profile player photos on the left are compliments of Niki Riga. So let's just enjoy the game. Duda opens with knight to f3. The reti is on the board. Sorry about that. With d5 by Mamedyarov, c4 e6, sorry, not d4, c4 e6, and now Duda could transpose into something like the queen's gambit decline, but he goes for b3. He continues with the Agincourt defense. With knight to f6, bishop to b2 by Duda, and now bishop to e7. With e3, preparing d4, Mamedyarov castles, knight to c3, and now d captures on c4. Bishop captures on c4 and now c5, and this is where the game gets really interesting. This position has been reached a few times before, and there have been few attempts here. d4 was an idea here, h4 was an idea, or just, you know, a nice kingside castle. But here Duda plays a move that has not been played before. He plays rook to g1. It's a new move already as of move 8, which is really awesome, and now we have a completely new game. So what's the idea? Well, you can see Duda's bishops are slicing all the way to the king side. Those are very nice bishops, and the rook is now ready on g1 to, you know, support the pawn's advancement to g4, g5, and start an attack against the black king. So Mamedyarov says, okay, first I'm gonna get rid of your bishop. It's very strong here with a6, preparing b5. And now Duda continues with his plan with g4 and b5, kicking the bishop away from such a nice diagonal. Bishop to e2, and now bishop to b7. Mamedyarov also puts his bishop on the very nice diagonal. Duda continues with his pushing of the pawn on the king side with g5, knight to d5, and now if you capture, yes, you do have a nice position. The bishop here is open, but it's not like you can use it. It's very hard to imagine that white can somehow start an attack here without actually pushing h4, h5, and g6. It's unlikely that the attack will happen. So here, queen to b1 by Duda. His idea is that if knight captures on c3, which is, well, probably what black wants to do, then he's going to capture with the bishop, and he wants to play queen to b2 and pressure g7 this way. But Mamedyarov isn't interested. After queen to b1, he just continues developing pieces. We have knight to d7, and now knight to e4 by Duda, avoiding this exchange and now opening up the bishop here. For the moment, you cannot contest the bishop, as the pawn on g5 really does a nice job of preventing this bishop coming to f6. Queen to c7, getting the queen into the play, connecting rooks, and now rook to g4 by Duda. Adding another defender to the knight here. Also, maybe the rook can come to h4 in some lines, maybe pressure on h7. Who knows? But all in all, it's a very nice rook lift. However, you should always check if something like knight to f6 works. I mean, if it works, you should play it. And here, if black was to actually capture with the g-pawn, it would work. Here, black is just lost. It's check from the rook. Once you move the king, then you capture the bishop again with check. And once the rook is captured, black is just busted. The problem is after knight to f6 check, Mamedyarov can capture with the knight, and then there's no problem. G captures, knight captures, and even though you have a semi-open g file for your rook, it's very hard to actually start attacking here, as your queen is misplaced. You can't really get the other rook into the game. Your king is still in the center, light square bishop not doing all that much, so it will be very hard to start an attack here. So after queen c7, we have rook to g4 by Duda, and now e5 by Mamedyarov. Just closing this bishop's diagonal, and a3 by Duda with rook f to e8, now adding another defender to the pawn here, but also preparing bishop to f8, as the bishop will be, well, a much better defender of the g7 square. We have queen to c2, now with ideas of maybe castling queenside, maybe getting the other rook over to the g file as well. Bishop to f8, and now h4, preparing h5 and g6. We have queen to c6 by Mamedyarov. Now the queen also controls the 6th rank, but also this queen bishop battery could become useful in some cases. So d3, adding another defender to the knight here, and now a5. Here Mamedyarov wants to push a4 and create weaknesses on the queen side, and the Duda doesn't allow it. First a4 by Duda, and now knight to b4, as the b4 square was just freed by for his knight. Queen to c3. Now both of the players have this battery. Only difference is that Duda's battery actually goes for the g7 square, which is never really an issue. The bishop on f8 does a wonderful job, so you don't have to be all that worried about most of the tactics. Queen to e6, just a nice centralizing move with the queen, but also puts pressure on the rook on g4. Knight f to d2, now the bishop protects the rook, so maybe now Duda can start pushing. But first b captures on a4, b captures on a4, and now knight to b6. This knight now wants to come to d5 and further harass the white queen. And here it's very hard to find a move for white. King to f1 seems like a move white can play, getting the king to some safety. No longer will you have to be worried about knight to c2 check, and well, the king is just much safer there. But here Duda played knight to c4, and this is not the greatest of moves. Mamedyarov played he could have gone for knight to d5, but here, of course, you're just gonna move the queen. You can't capture on e5 because after all the trades, black would still have knight to c2 check, but you can just move queen to b3, and the game continues. However, Mamedyarov found an even better idea. He just captured on c4. We have d captures on c4, and now, what would you play here? I'm not gonna ask you to pause the video. Just briefly look at the position and try to find a move. It's just a very delicate position, because here Mamedyarov played rook 8 to d8, but the engines are giving that black has a winning maneuver. Although it's very hard to see why this is a winning maneuver, especially in a rapid game. Bishop captures on e4 is the move, and after rook captures queen to h3. Now, who would find such a line? Now the threat being queen to h1 check will pick up the rook, and after you prevent this, let's say rook g4, now the bishop guards the rook. Now you go queen h1 check, bishop to f1, and now you either play e4, which threatens knight to d3, and black would white would just fall apart. Here you will not be able to capture with the bishop as it's pinned, and it's just a disgusting position for white to be in. On the other hand, if you try something like, let's say, after queen to h1, king to d2, you can never use the d file, because now rook 8 to d8 is just deadly. The king has nowhere to go, and you will just have to block with the rook, start giving material, and it's game over. So rook 8 to d8 was not necessary by Mamedyarov, as we already saw that the king can never touch the d file because rook a d8 comes with such a deadly threat. But okay, that captures and queen to h3 is just I would call it a disgusting engine line, but I wanted you to see it. So king to f1 by Duda, now getting his king to safety. No longer will these two moves be an issue, so less to calculate. And now bishop to c8 by Mamedyarov, preparing to move the queen, and then the bishop will be harassing the rook on g4. But again, there was a much nicer move. So here I will ask you to pause the video and try to find this very nice idea Mamedyarov had in this position. Sorry about not having the sip of water. Lately my voice has been fine. I don't really need the sip of water, but if ever I will need it, then I will have some. Don't worry about it. So here, if you were able to do it, congratulations. You are an excellent lifter of rooks. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook to d4. Just create a double attack against the knight here. And here white doesn't really have all that many choices. If you move the knight, you lose the rook, as the queen and rook are attacking the g4 rook. And your only other option is to either capture the rook or to try and guard the knight with f3. And now if you try to guard the knight with f3, it doesn't really add up, because bishop captures, pawn captures, and now rook captures on e4. Rook captures, and now queen to f5 check. You cannot block as the pawn guards this square, so you're probably going to have to move the king. Queen captures with check, king g3, and now you're just busted with the king and g3. And your other option after rook to d4 is to capture it. E captures, but then after e captures, the white queen is under attack. Queen to f3, defending the knight, but now d3, and now the white queen just can't keep an eye on everything. You can't control the d3 square, the rook on g4, and here you can play bishop d1, but then bishop captures on e4, queen captures, you'll get rook captures, and now black is up only a pawn, but it's a deadly pawn. It's a passed pawn on d3, and black will win this endgame. So this was one way to go about it, rook to d4, but it's a rapid game, no pointing of the finger. Bishop to c8 now by Mamedyarov, and rook to g3. Duda just gets the rook out of the way, and Mamedyarov repeats with bishop to b7. And now Duda does not repeat rook to g4, but rather f3. He gets another defender here and prepares to maybe get the king to a safer square. Queen to g6, now threatening to capture here, and now knight to f2, getting the knight out of the way, and h5 now. An excellent move by Mamedyarov, not allowing Duda to create any chances with h5, and also you cannot capture en passant as the rook on g3 would hang. So first rook to g1 by Duda, but now queen to c2. Shouldn't have said that my voice is perfectly fine, because it's usually how it goes. But queen to c2, Mamedyarov offers a queen trade here, and you don't want to trade. If captures, your rook is under attack, and also the e3 pawn here, you would just fall apart too quickly. So Duda tries to kick away the queen with bishop to d1. Mamedyarov pushes the queen back with queen to f5. And now what do you play here? Here, probably e4 is the best idea, just pushing the queen back and then maybe trying to consolidate, but it will not be easy. Black just has a much better position. Okay, now with e4 you've numbed the bishop on b7, but still this knight is a monster, the rook really also a monster. The queen controlling a lot of squares here. It will be very hard for white to defend. But here Duda played king to g2, and now it simply doesn't work. So here, again, pause the video and decide what to do here with black. I'll give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent solver of tactics. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, Mamedyarov played knight to d3, which is nice, but there is a much more forcing line, which is rook captures on d1, and it's well, you just remove the defender of the f3 pawn, and it's something probably most people would do, but here it's a rapid game, it's not blitz, so you can't just blitz everything out, you have to calculate properly, and it's not a simple line, because if you capture, rook captures here, then you get bishop captures on f3 with check. King g3, bishop picks up the rook back, rook captures, and now e4, threatening queen to f3, and well, you're gonna win the knight. So rook to d2, you defend the knight, but still, queen f3 check, king to h2, and now knight to d3. So what do you do here? Not really a lot you can do. If you capture, then you get pawn captures, and now the rook is free to capture the e3 pawn, which will be deadly. If you capture with the rook, to guard the pawn, then rook to e4 threatens the rook, captures on h4, followed by rook to h1 mate. And if you prevent that with queen to e1, just guarding the pawn, then rook to g4, threatening checkmate here. And after rook to d2 blocking, now finally bishop to d6, a nice deflecting move where you will have to capture, and then queen g2, not queen g3. Queen g2 is mate. So this is one way to go about it. And after this, rook captures on d1, removing the bishop. It's no better capturing with this rook. This way, white just falls apart much quicker. Just queen captures here with check, king f1, queen g2 check, king to e1. Now you get bishop to f3, and you don't really have a lot of options here. Queen g1 check will pick up the knight here, and well, there's really not all that much to do here. You have to move the rook, whatever you do, check, you move the king, queen captures with check, and again white falls apart. So congratulations to those of you who found this very nice idea of rook captures on d1, but knight to d3 also works very nicely. Here, what do? We have bishop to e2 by Duda, preparing to bring the other rook into the game, also attacking the knight here. but now e4 by Mamedyarov. Also, a very nice idea was just bishop captures on f3 check. This game is just, you know, full of beautiful tactics. After bishop captures, just e4, attacking the bishop. If you move it, the queen captures on f2. So here it probably capture on d3, but now queen captures on f3 check, king to h2, and now rook captures on d3. Again, white is just busted here. But Mamedyarov goes for a different order of moves with e4 first. Now comes f4, and now, once again, for the last time, pause the video and try to find the winning line for Mamedyarov here. I'll give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent continuer of attacks as black. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight captures on f4. No longer can you wait, you just have to bust open the position. It's check, you are threatening to capture the bishop here. So white recaptured, and here Mamedyarov just played e3. It's a discovered check from the bishop. Also the knight on f2 is now under attack. Bishop to f3 was played, but now just bishop captures with check, king captures, and now e captures on f2 with, with no check. But it was in this position on move 36 that Jan-Krzysztof Duda resigned the game. And basically here he dropped out of the FIDE Grand Prix. Mamedyarov eliminated him. Why did he resign? Well, if you capture the pawn, the two rooks are just too powerful. Just queen captures on f4 check, king g2, and now rook e2 check wins. King h3, rook h2 mate. And if you don't capture it, well, you can't really allow queen g4 check. You have to play rook g3, get the rook out of harm's way, but then just rook to d3 check wins the queen. There's no nice way to go about this. King g2, now you can even play rook to e1. If the queen is captured, just you bring a queen into the game. So not really much to do here. Captures f1 queen, king g3, queen captures on d3 with check. And here you're just getting mated. Queen d2 check, and here rook e3 is mate. So of course Duda saw all this after pawn captures on f2. He resigned the game. And here, as we said, we were going to check out the standings. So here they are, the standings from the quarterfinals. There you have it. Wesley So eliminated Sergei Karagin. We already have seen that game with a win in the Blitz format. There you have it, a lot of drawn games before that. Then Mamedyarov eliminated Jan-Krzysztof Duda in the second game of the Rapids. First game of the Rapids was drawn. Alexander Grishuk also eliminated Yu Yangi in the Rapids, in the first game of the Rapids. And Veselin Topalov was eliminated by Maxim Vashiel-Lagrave. Maxim eliminates everyone in the classical time format. You know, he doesn't joke around, which is very strange. Maxim won against Topalov in round 1, and then in round 2, where Topalov had to win to stay in the game, he offered a draw on move 12, which was really strange. I don't know, I guess he just thought that he doesn't have a chance against Maxim, and better just maybe save some rating, live to fight another day. I don't know, but seems very strange. It's still the classical time format. I guess this is a decision none of us can understand, but it did happen. So there you have it. Wesley So will face Mamedyarov in the semifinals, and Alexander Grishuk will face Maxim Vashiel-Lagrave. So we're gonna have a really crazy semifinal matchup. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Oliver Bond, Cheryl Linz, Suzanne Jones, Thomas Vivian, and Pavan Karamcheti for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this very nice tournament, continuing the Capablanca saga, and of course checking up on your suggestions. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.